Hello, welcome back to my channel. One of the most common struggles or things that I hear from our community when I ask them, what do you struggle with when it comes to goals, is following through. I don't follow through on my goals. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Before we jump into it though, if you are a goals nerd like me, I wanna make sure that you know that I am bringing back my course, Accelerate Your Goals. If you have some big goals this year, or you feel like you are really struggling with breaking through some of those goal roadblocks, I want you to come join us. It is a complete revamp of the prior version of the course. That version had 4 modules. I always taught it live. This version has 7, and it is going to be pre-recorded in small chunks so that you can do it at your own pace and fit it into your life. If you are interested for more information when it launches again, even if you've already been a member of the course before, go join the waitlist. I will leave the link for the waitlist down below. And I'll tell you a little secret, the waitlist will get a discount when the course goes live. All right, let's get back to talking about follow through. In this video, I'm gonna talk about 5 main reasons that you are likely struggling to follow through on your goals. And maybe one of these reasons totally resonates with you and you're like, that is me on all of my goals no matter what. Maybe one of these reasons really resonates for a specific goal and another reason resonates for another goal. But I have both experienced these personally as well as worked with people and supported them through all of these reasons why you might struggle to follow through on your goals. Number 1, your goals are unrealistic. I was listening to a podcast the other day, All It Takes is a Goal by Jon Acuff, and I very rarely recommend content that is just goal generic. Most of the time, I recommend books and podcasts that are related to your specific goals. This podcast by Jon Acuff is an exception. He also really likes to talk about goals, and he has done a lot of research on some varying topics that really help you with the mindset work that comes behind goals. But one of the things he was talking about on this episode is how big to make your goals. And he was talking about drawing a line. So you draw a line, and at one end of the line is boring. That goal is boring, it doesn't excite you. In other words, it's too easy. On the other end of the line is overwhelming. It's too big, it's too scary, you're not going to do it. In other words, unrealistic. In the middle of that, we're going for that Goldilocks scenario, is what he calls inspiring. And I agree with him completely. That is what we're going for. I do truly believe that all goals are achievable on the right timeline. I didn't put that quote on a mug because I don't believe it. But if we set out, even if this overwhelming, unrealistic goal is something that you ultimately want, if you go out and work on that on a timeline that's not feasible, you're gonna be overwhelmed and you're not gonna work on it. So we need to figure out what is the more realistic goal on a shorter time frame that you can actually be excited or inspired, in the words of Jon Acuff, to work towards. And I know that is way easier said than done. So I actually made a video last year on this exact topic with 3 tips to set realistic goals. So if you feel like this is what's stopping you from following through on your goals because we're a third of the way through the new year and you realize that those goals that you set for the whole year are unrealistic, I encourage you to go ahead and leave this video and click and go watch that video on setting realistic goals. Reason number 2, they're not broken down enough. You knew this was coming, right? Like, I can't talk about goals and follow through and not talk about breaking them down, because this is something that I really struggled with at the beginning. How to break down my goals and how far to break down my goals. Because even if the goal, the ultimate goal, is realistic and inspiring to you, it's still going to be too big for you to just plop it into your planner, right? Even if it is Goldilocks in the middle of that line, you're still not gonna put that in your planner. You're still gonna need to break it down into smaller steps. And I know this probably comes as no surprise to you, but I have a video about this too. And even if you have watched that video, even if you watch that video more than once, I always wanna remind you that when you watch the videos that I create, the ones that are like this with tips and advice, you are watching that video with the mindset of your current set of goals, right? When you are, and this is, so I do this all the time. When I listen to podcasts, even when I like watch sitcoms, when I'm watching it in that moment, I'm relating it to where I'm at in my life and what's being applied in that moment. Same is true for you when you watch my videos about goals. And so if you're like, well, I already watched that video, Laken, I already got that information, I don't need to get it again. If it's been a long time and you feel like breaking your goal down into smaller pieces is what's holding you back from making progress, I would encourage you to go watch that video again. And now you're gonna watch it through the eyes of your current set of goals. So yes, I'm gonna go ahead and link that video on how to break down your goals. And if you can't tell, there is a theme to this video. Follow through is such a highly requested topic and struggle that I feel like I have made videos on every subtopic and every every like reason, underlying reason behind follow through, that I just wanted to make a compilation video that pointed you in the right direction based on where you're at right now with your goals. And so yes, I'm also telling you to leave this video. If we get to a reason today and you're like, boom, that's my reason, I want you to click on that video and go watch that one instead. You can always come back to this video at any time over the course of your goal journey if you feel like you're struggling with follow through again. All right, reason number 3, you're procrastinating. I have been there. Do you know what your goals are, right? They're realistic and they're inspiring. They're broken down. You've watched the video. Maybe you've taken my course before. Your goals are broken down, but you're still not doing the steps. And you're procrastinating on actually doing the steps. You schedule them. You put them in your calendar. You schedule time. You're like, no, I'm good. I've got all those beginning things. But then once they're in my calendar and they're on my planner, I still don't do them. Of course, I made a whole video on procrastinating, and in that video, I go through the 5 reasons why you're probably procrastinating. And just like this video, it could be where each one of those reasons could be different for a different goal, right? There could be a reason that applies to this goal and a reason that applies to that goal. And so even if you've watched that video before, I want you to go back and rewatch it with a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of goals, because I guarantee you, you're gonna take something away that's going to apply to your current goals. All right, reason number 4, you are focusing on all or nothing. I have been here too. Like I used to be the queen of like, well, I can't do my 60-minute workout, so I'm just not gonna do any, even though I could have done like a 45-minute workout. Or I can't do my full morning routine from start to finish, well then I'm just not gonna do any of the steps. Or I don't have time to read an entire chapter of that book, well then I'm just not gonna read any of it. Anybody else? This struggle is way less practical. This is way less about like, do this, not this, break it down, schedule it, etc. This is mental. This is one of those mindsets that I for sure talk about in the course, because our mindset struggle, there's a lot of mindsets that we struggle with when it comes to goals, but this one in particular, I have not only personally fallen prey to, but have seen so many members of our community struggle with when it comes to their goals. This is a mental game. For some people, it's the mental game behind the small progress isn't worth it. For some people, it's the mental block behind not being perfect. For some people, it's the mental block behind I'm never going to actually get to the end if I don't do it in these big chunks and take these big giant leaps. There's a lot of reasons why you might struggle with this, but if you do want some actionable, tangible suggestions on how to tackle the all or nothing mindset, you guessed it, I have a video on that. Also, while I was prepping for this video, I was going back and rewatching all of these old videos that I created to get a feel for them, to kind of be able to summarize them better. And it really did make me miss my old office. I do like my new office. There's a lot about it that I love, but man, I miss the white. Like this office is all wood and I miss the white of my old office. All right, and reason number 5 is you struggle with motivation. Especially now that it's May. You're like, January is long gone and I don't have any more motivation to work on my goals. Spoiler alert, it's May and your motivation is not coming. It's not just going to show up likely until like December or January of next year. If you wait for that motivation to strike to work on your goals, you're like, I'm just gonna wait for that motivation to kick in and then I'll work on my goals. It's possible that you never will. You may, until January of next year, you may never actually feel that spark of motivation. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have a good why. You've heard me talk about this before. I do think you need a good why behind your goals. Your goals have to matter to you. In fact, that's step 1 in the course. Module 1 is picking goals that matter to you. And that is always gonna be important. You need an underlying reason for why this goal is even on your list. But having a good why does not equal motivation. Those two things do not mean the same thing. So just because you have a good why, just because your goal matters to you, doesn't mean motivation is going to just spark anytime you need it to spark. So now you've heard me say, we can't rely on motivation. So what's the answer? You know what's coming. You know where the magic lies. And that is in momentum. It is momentum, not motivation, that is going to help you achieve your goals. And where does momentum come from? It comes from action. And you're like, well, wait, I clicked on this video because I don't follow through on my goals. So if the only way for me to follow through on my goals is for me to have momentum, the only way for me to have momentum is action, but action comes from following through. Like, how do I even get there? I got you. I did a whole video on that. I understand that it is a cyclical process. It is a process where you have got to take action in order to get that momentum, in order to ultimately follow through for enough time to make progress and then ultimately achieve your goal. So how do you start that little tiny bit of action? I want you to go watch that video on momentum versus motivation. Sometimes when I'm talking about goals or making videos, I feel repetitive. I feel like I'm telling you the same things over and over again. And I don't mind. It doesn't bother me at all. I heard somebody say once, if you're gonna have a business, make sure the topic that you're talking about is something you're willing to talk about all the time. And I mean, I love to sit here and talk about goals to help you break them down, to help you figure out what it is that you need to make sure that you're following through. But ultimately, the reason I'm repetitive is because what I've found is that no matter how different our lives are, what our commitments are, where we live, whether we have big families or small families, whatever it is that you have going on in your life. And at the same time, no matter how different our goals are, yes, there is overlap, right? There are lots of people who have goals related to physical health or related to your house or related to your job. But at the end of the day, all of our lives are so different and all of our goals are so different, but we all struggle with the same things. And we all have the same underlying reasons why we can't follow through on our goals. So if one of these jumped out at you, I want you to make sure you go watch that video with your current life and goals in the forefront of your mind while you're watching it. And if you really do feel like you need more or you want more because you're a goals nerd like me, get on the wait list for the course. I'm gonna share information very soon. And I'm so excited to share all of the things that I have learned since I created the first version of that course in these new 7 modules. So if you did like this video, if you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every week focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome. Why am I being awkward? That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm gonna stop being weird and rewatch it. Hold on, let me try that again. Or not are, that sounded wrong. And all of our goals are so different.